So thank you, Ken, for that introduction. And welcome everyone to the 2025-2026 National Federation of High School Volleyball Rules PowerPoint. My name is Ed Tucholsky, and I'm your Maryland State Volleyball Rules Interpreter. And this PowerPoint presentation, as always, will be discussing rule changes, editorial changes, points of emphasis, and I've even got a few questions for you. So let's get on with the rule changes for the 2025-2026 season. And there are really only 6 rule changes. 2 of them are delayed till subsequent years, and we'll discuss those. And one of them I don't think will have any effect on us in Maryland just because of the way we've been doing business in the past. And so the first rule change I'm going to discuss has to do with the ball. And beginning in the 2026-2027 school year, that's next year, not this year, by state association adoption, we can use non-smooth or textured volleyball, and there's no restriction on the size, shape, and color of the panels. And so I've got right here our standard volleyball that most of you are probably used to seeing. It has 18 panels. They're kind of regular. In Maryland, we like the red, white, and blue ball. And of course, it has right there the National Federation of High School logo. It's the old logo, and this ball is what we'll be using for the 2025 season, for this season coming up. But if our state association adopts it, and I have every reason to believe they will, particularly for the men's game, but that'll be up to the coaches and the commissioner for the Montgomery County Men's League. For the private schools in Baltimore, again, they'll be making their own decision. But there are other balls that are out there that are irregular in panel shape. And if you look closely at this one, it's dimpled. Not like a golf ball where it's kind of concave, but it's just got little holes in it, and it gives you better ability to control the volleyball when setting with finger action. Okay, so possibly next year, if our state adopts it, this will be a legal volleyball. Additionally, there are some volleyballs with irregular shaped panels, but they're smooth, just like our current volleyball, and under the rule change for next season, this might also be legal. And one of the reasons why the National Federation has delayed this rule till next year is quite simply that they're giving the manufacturers time to put the logos on these volleyballs so that referees will know that they are legal if their state association has adopted it. Now, our second rule change is going to be implemented this fall, the 2025 season, and it has to do with undergarments. And you should recall that previously, if a player had an exposed undergarment, it had to meet 2 criteria. First, it had to match the predominant color in the jersey, and then it had to match all of her teammates with the exception of the libero. So in the play pick all the way on the right here, you'll notice that the jersey is red, the exposed undergarment is also red, and if other players have exposed undergarment other than the libero, they also had to be red. A couple problems with that, of course. First, sometimes it was difficult to find a color of an undergarment that matched the predominant color in the jersey. And so that left teams who one player may have been one shade of red, another player may have been a slightly different shade of red, and then all of that culminated in the second problem, which you as the referee then had to decide, does that color match all the other players, and does it, with the exception of the libero, and does that color of that undergarment match the predominant color in the jersey? And so we've got a little relief for this season. 3 other colors are authorized to be worn by players as exposed undergarments. That's black, white, and gray. So it should be easier to find black that matches. All the players other than the libero have to have the same color, or white. All the players other than libero have the same color. It's white, or even gray. So you don't have to make the determination, does that visible undergarment match the predominant color in the jersey? They still can use the old rule. They still can use the predominant color. That's still allowed, but we've also added the ability to wear black, white, or gray to match the predominant color of the jersey. And remember, this does not affect the undergarment exposed by the libero. Completely different rule. for liberos. And here's our, third rule change now. And this one is, again, delayed because it's a change to a uniform, and teams might have just bought uniforms that don't comply with this new rule. Well, that would be unfair to those teams. The financial burden of that would be unfair. And so this rule change will be implemented in 2029, 4 seasons from now. But if you see that people aren't complying with this rule, by all means, please inform the coaches so that they know that at some point they're going to have to get new uniforms. Now, recall in previous years, this number on the front or the number on the back had to be 5 inches down from the neckline, or in the case of the front, it could also have been 5 inches down from one of the shoulder seams. And of course, you had to make that judgment to see if the uniform placement was legal. Starting in 2029, the only thing that you have to make sure a team is complying with is that the number must be centered and on the upper half of the uniform top. Okay, and so those 2 red lines that are dashed on the play pick on the left side, which show a centered axis, and a kind of halfway on the jersey, as long as the number on the front is above that, then you're meeting the requirement. Centered upper half of the jersey. The number on the front of the uniform must be centered on the upper half of the uniform top. No longer need to measure for that 5 inches down from a neckline or a shoulder seam. And of course on the back, simply center it up. So this is the jersey that we do not want to see in 2029. Perfectly legal this year, next year, the year after. But if you'll notice, the number 4 in this case, is on the upper shoulder side of the jersey. And again, it must be no more than 5 inches down from the shoulder seam. Starting in 2029, this will be illegal. This is sort of a legacy location for putting the number. Back in the old days when jerseys were basically T-shirts with cheap silkscreen numbers that were often tacky. If a player tried to dive, that number would stick to the court, ruin a good play perhaps. Uniform technology has improved over the years. No longer a reason to put the number up by the shoulder, and so we're eliminating that starting in 2029. So what happens in 2029, as inevitably will happen, a team will come to their first match and say, we didn't know these jerseys were illegal. And the answer, of course, as always, is when a team cannot begin the match with 6 players in legal uniforms, their opponent gets a point, so they lose a point. And if that team happens to be serving, they also lose serve. So it's point, loss, or rally awarded to the opponent. And the state association, Maryland MPSSAA, should be notified. That could mean tell me, and I'll get that information through to the state office. Please, if you see jerseys that look like this, now, next year, the year after, please warn the coaches. Let's try, for the first time with a uniform change in 2029, not to have a large number of teams telling us that nobody ever told them. They hadn't heard this. It will really make things a whole lot smoother, and you as officials are the point of contact on the deck plates with coaches and hopefully their athletic directors. And now here's the rule change, which I think shouldn't affect many of us just because of the way we do business in Maryland. The National Federation of High School has completely eliminated the requirement for second referees to carry and use a lineup card to check the starting lineups. Officials must use each coach's submitted lineup sheet to check the starting lineup. Why? Well, if you transcribed the coach's submitted lineup onto your lineup card, and then you check the teams and set them up per your lineup card where you made an error, a transcription error, and then, of course, they go and have a wrong server at some point, that's really on you, but the rules give you no real relief. They don't give you relief that you can give to the team to set them up right. Nothing in the rules cover this, so use the coach's submitted lineup and carefully line them up at the start of each set in accordance with that document. Now, newer officials can still use a lineup card as a training tool. That's okay. And if you're the type of person who learns the lineup by taking a second and writing it down before the set starts, and that helps you keep it in your head, by all means use it. However, remember, if you feel obliged to be an auxiliary scorekeeper or a backup scorekeeper, and every time a sub happens, you pull out your lineup card and you can't let the sub enter because you're changing your lineup card, and that takes 15, 20, 30 seconds. Remember, volleyball's a momentum game, and if the coach is out of his or her 2 timeouts, and all they have to do to get some time to give their team a break is to have a sub because you're going to spend all kinds of time with your lineup card, well, that is not the intent. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why I think the National Federation has eliminated the requirement to use a lineup card. And now here's the first question for this year's presentation. And you can see some Sherwood jerseys. And simple question, is this uniform legal? Yes or no? We'll come back in the next segment and we'll discuss the answer.